Hey everyone, welcome to True Health Foundations podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lonnie Bagwell, here with Dr. Greg Abbott, as always. And today we're going to be talking about weight loss. We've talked a little bit in the past podcast about metabolics overall, and that is obviously foundational science, to losing weight the way that we teach it and have experienced it. But I just wanted to start off today by talking about some of the most common questions that we get, and then we're going to dive into some more specific topics next week. But the first question that we get, and we get it really quickly when we start talking about lose 20 pounds in 40 days, lose 20 pounds, and keep it off just, after 90 days. And people will say, well, is that even possible to lose weight that fast? That's the first one that they say. Like, I don't know. They raise an eyebrow. And so if someone to you, Dr. Greg, was to say, if you were like, hey, you need to take 30, 40 pounds off, we can take that first 20 pounds off in, month and a half, then what, and they raise an eyebrow and say, is that even possible? What would your response be to that? I know it's an obvious response first, but elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, you're giving me the softball question right
I
away
know,
here,
I know, I know.
but no, is it possible 100%? And so, just to further elaborate on that thought, if we were taking two separate people, one person that had 100 pounds to lose, and someone, let's even say they didn't have any quote unquote weight to lose, but could they still theoretically lose 20 pounds in that amount of time? With the right strategy, absolutely they could.
There you
And
go.
so is it possible 100%? Yeah, I don't want to get too far into what your next question is going to be, but we
Yeah.
have to get past this idea of is it possible? Realistically, in today's world, most things are. There's enough stuff out there, enough tools out there to achieve the outcome that you want to achieve. But again, there's layers that we're going to uncover here today.
Yeah, and we would definitely like an intake. We would look at history and say, okay, here's some potential stumbling blocks. I mean, because we've had people with significant diseases and illnesses, and that's why they're trying to lose weight to stack the deck in favor of their recovery. But and it might slow things down. But I haven't met too many people that couldn't lose 20 pounds in 90 days in a really healthy manner, and many can do it a lot faster. But of course, that sets up the next question is, okay, so you have systems in place that can help me lose 20, 30, 40 pounds in 90 days. How healthy is that? Right?
Well,
And
if you have that much weight to lose to get you to an ideal body weight, and that's something we can define later, but if you actually have 20 pounds that you would benefit from losing, 100% it's healthy. It's got to be. It's actually one of the best proven indicators in research for all-cause mortality is just lose weight, and you
yeah,
will be in a much better place with pretty much every health measure that's out there. Now, again, the sustainability, how long, we're going to get into that in more detail. But again, can you do it?
yeah,
Yes. Is it healthy? Yes.
yeah. And
But
I
we're going
wonder
to take it
where.
to the next level, right?
Right, right, right. And I wonder where this really came from. Like I hadn't thought about this until this exact second. And we talked about what we're going to talk about today a little bit, but I wonder where the idea came from, where the focus it became more important and more focused on oh my gosh, how you're losing the weight is unhealthy versus the fact that you're not carrying 40 extra pounds and we dropped 5 pounds worth of fat that was literally choking off your liver and your heart. You know what I mean? Like, and that's I don't have a. I mean, anecdotally, I'm wondering if it was maybe driven by, unfortunately nowadays you could say I wonder if it was driven by certain industry things that were going on at the time when they wanted you to, if Weight Watchers doesn't like that or something, like
Sure,
if there
sure.
was a
Well,
narrative created by someone else that was a bigger deal, right? But
well, think of it this way, and this relates to every single person listening to this. If you have weight to lose, or if in the past, let's say you had weight to lose previously and then you lost it, how much easier is it to go for a walk?
right,
How much less pain do you have when you're trying to do the movement stuff that we've talked about in the past that is a catalyst to keep things moving forward?
yeah.
And so that's why it's such an incredibly important early step in the process is just to flat out lose weight because your capabilities functionally go way up just by having less weight on your body.
And that is usually, yeah, like, and I experience that, so I can speak from experience. I have still, I'm engaging in, getting to my final goals with my weight as we speak, but I've lost a lot of weight to this point to get here even. And I experienced that big time. In fact, I even talked about something called the pain of weight loss for me, where I had all these old injuries, athletics and car accidents. And as I lost weight and joints started to move more, it kind of activated some of those old injuries. So I actually had to work through some rehab on some things that I didn't realize, carrying all that extra weight was like locked in place. And then I was giving it more freedom and it wasn't happy with me for a period of time. But the other side of that is I actually could heal the joints that were not healed for all those years, right? And so that's just part of my journey. And I was just, with all the knee work that we do with the soft wave, I just saw something the other day. Don't quote me on the poundage exactly, but it was like every whatever, every 2 3 pounds that you take off, you're removing 15 pounds of pressure from the joint and your knees or something like that. Like it was an exponential, a static versus a functional improvement in taking the pressure off your joints. And I was really encouraged. Now, weight didn't cause the knee problem necessarily, but it can be part of the solution. And in those people's case, if they go from not being able to walk and they lose 20 pounds quickly, and now they can walk properly, so they're not wrecking their knees, wrecking their feet, wrecking their back. That's just a quick and easy example related to pain, that makes a ton of sense. And so then so the first question is, can you even do it? Like raise an eyebrow. Second question is it even healthy? And the third question that we get is it's not sustainable. Not even a question. It's more of a statement in the form of a question, but and you hear all these influencers, and again, I think I said this in a past video. There's one influencer, I actually kind of like his stuff, but he is very much against any of the modern ways of losing weight. He's very rooted in, he's very metabolically gifted, and he's very rooted in 1 pound per week. Nothing more, anything more is unhealthy. And the word he says all the time is it's not sustainable to do it that way. And so I love your take on this. And this is really a cornerstone of how and why we do things here across the board. Like, is any of the healing that happens here sustainable, right? And so when someone would say to you, like, okay, I believe you could take 20 to 40 off in 90 days and keep it off. You can do it. It's safe, to do that, but is it sustainable?
Yeah, so we've gotten to seeming finish line, right? Maybe you're at the goal weight now that you've gotten to. Now, what does sustainability mean? Are you going to stay there or potentially even continue to lose more after you hit a certain point? Well, the only way you can really know how sustainable it is you have to measure. You have to be objective in the process. If all you're doing
Mhm.
it is based on you stepping on a scale and seeing what pound is on the scale,
Yeah,
you're already behind the eight ball because
right.
that scale is going to fluctuate simply by whether you're dehydrated or not, whether you slept well or not. So many different factors that can just subtly change the scale. But when we say measure, we mean check the blood, check your hormones, check your metabolic function, check all of the things that should have improved by you losing
Mhm.
weight. But what can happen now is you can take that measurement to the next level and say, is it okay to keep going, to keep pushing at the level that you've been pushing up to this point? Or
Right.
do you need to alter the course? And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, our short answer is it sustainable? Maybe,
Yeah,
right?
right.
It is if you
It's
measure
it
it, and
it's
then you
yeah,
have
it's
to come again.
sustainable according to, and we'll know when you're sustaining it when we can tell you, yes, look at your estrogen, progesterone, DHEA, testosterone. Like, yeah, look where you're at now versus where you were. You're there.
Correct.
Or look at your metabolic biomarkers. You look how well you're burning fat or have the ability to burn fat, metabolically from this lab. And that really is foundational, and that's a huge shift. We made some upgrades to our Optiburn program, but one of the big ones is being able to now use biomarkers to measure the success of the program across the board for patients, but to be able to look them in the eye and say, okay, here's the new you, and this person right here they are fat adapted and they're metabolically flexible, and you're in a sustainable state, right? And now we can do basic stuff and observations of symptoms and stuff as they continue to add things back in and start to do life again. because we have a baseline of their return to normal. And
100%.
uh, and I'm
And
excited
as
about that.
people, maybe they're familiar or not familiar with the entirety of the program, but it's not go extreme, self-deprive, don't eat any food, be miserable, and stay there. It's
Right.
let's get the ball rolling, and then
Right.
let's start to build practices into place that you can do day in and day out forever if you choose to do so.
Yeah.
And that's all part of the
The
process.
program's been super successful, and the only way it could have been successful is if it was doing these things. But when you're looking at something, you're saying, how do I make this even better? How do I make it for everybody? How do I make it that it can increase people's confidence to be able to do life well again and not be afraid of carbohydrates or be afraid of, rice or whatever, right? Or fruit. And, how can we do this in a way how can we do this in a way that we catch the people who would have put the weight back on rapidly post program because something was off with their hormones, right? How do we do that? How do we make this program truly sustainable, for 6 months past the program, 12 months past the program? So that's where the measurements come in. So it's not just about a victory lap saying, hey, look what I did. It's really about like downshifting to accelerate. You know what I mean? It's really about I feel like going into the next gear of of their metabolic recovery because maybe they don't lose as much weight because they've hit their goal weight, but I don't know a single person who wouldn't love to have more energy,
100%.
right? Better sleep to now to take how they feel better and put some high octane fuel in there, to really take that to the next level, start affecting their
Right.
cognitive function, sleep, mood, like that's really what that lab is there for. It's about next steps to live out the results of being metabolically successful in the first step.
One of my favorite parts about looking at the labs and really getting to know each individual is this isn't every single person is going to do the exact same thing and they're going to stay there. The whole point of running the biomarkers and the more detailed analysis for each person is to say, what is and what isn't working.
Mhm.
And that can be different nutritionally speaking, that can be supplementally, that can be with movement, all of these different components. There is going to be a little bit of a twist that each person might benefit from that's different from the next
Mhm.
person. And that's you can't know that stuff if everybody's just put into a cookie cutter program and well, I guess it worked for you, but it didn't work for them. Next. No, we
Yeah.
we care. If there's at any point a reason why the weight is not coming off or it's not sustainable, we're going to be able to figure it out. And there's not going
Yeah.
to be any guesswork involved, and we can help get to that next level.
No, that's awesome, man. And last thing we'll talk about in this video, and it's really just set up for future videos. Like, I just want to broach the topic a little bit until we can put something a little bit more sciencey and data driven together. So this is the opinion page, of this podcast here. But for our patients who are, let's talk about GLP-1s. Okay, so GLP-1, obviously, you talk about cookie cutter. This is the elephant in the room cookie cutter approach right now, and fast track to weight loss. So some people are not asking questions of can you lose weight that fast, like we've heard for so many years, because now a million people have lost weight really, really quickly on these GLP-1s, right? And I have anecdotes and stories, and you have anecdotes and stories, and I know people who tried it and how they experienced it. And I also see the YouTube videos, like you see the YouTube videos talking about, hey, wait a minute, there's some stuff coming down the pipe here that's not doesn't look good, maybe. Give your as a primer for when we hop back on and record on the data and the science behind all this stuff. What's your kind of gut feeling? I'm going to ask you what's your gut feeling. So, what's your anecdotal opinion, but what's your gut telling you about these GLP-1s? We've been in practice combined, between the two of us for 30 plus years, and we've seen stuff like this come and go. What's your gut based off your experience?
Yeah, I'll start with we when you don't know what you don't know, and all you see is a result, be careful. That's kind of just like a caution. All right. Well,
Mhm.
what you and I can 100% agree on is, do they help people lose weight? Yes, they do. They work,
Sure.
right? So we want to be
Mhm.
out front saying we're not bashing the credibility of the end result of what they can accomplish.
Absolutely.
What full effect does it have, especially long term for people? Who knows? I mean,
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
the best guess right now. But the one thing that I do know for sure is when it comes to them actually measuring weight loss, they don't care what type of weight you are actually losing, whether it's
Mhm.
fat, whether it's muscle, whether it's other components to the tissue of your body. That's not what they're asking. They're
Mhm.
asking, can you lose weight? And so that's a huge differentiator that we're going to get into more detail about because that does matter. When we're talking
Yeah.
about losing 20 pounds in 90 days, we're not talking about losing lean muscle mass. We're talking
Right.
about losing the unnecessary types of tissue in your body, primarily fat tissue, that we want to kick to the curb. That's a very, very
Right.
big differentiator.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like our Optiburn program has been catered to target more fat loss. It's actually called fat loss. It says it around here all over the place. We don't just say weight loss on purpose. That's intentional. And we even monitor water weight to make sure that people aren't losing too much water proportional, only proportional to the total weight loss. And we have reasons for that. We could teach that in other videos. Nobody's doing that nobody's doing those supportive things with GLP-1 to my knowledge at this point. I have, and then what I'll just add to what you said was, oh, the other thing I will say is, like we just said, how do you do this sustainably? You test, you know your numbers. I have not seen anybody come to me and say, I'm on a GLP-1 and here's my before and after labs. Looks like I'm doing great. Here's my cardiac panel. Looks like I'm doing great. And I'm sure that I feel confident that they're afraid to do that largely because if they did that across the population of people who are using those right now, it's even if it wasn't GLP-1's fault entirely, they're taking some really unhealthy people and they're grossly manipulating their body. There's a lot that could come out on a lab when you do that,
100%. I would just
so
love to see him do a DEXA scan pre and post. That's a very advanced test.
yeah,
You could do a Tanita or other scans that,
yeah.
obviously will run.
No,
But
I'm with you on the DEXA though, because the anecdotal stuff that I've seen is people who are getting, decreased cardiac muscle tissue. You know what I mean? Like, I can't come up with a thing that I would. I mean, I just taught a heart workshop and I shared about even my heart health history and everything. I can't come up with a thing that I'd ever be willing to do to sacrifice any of that. Like I,
100%.
like there's a lot of other things that I would sacrifice, including carrying an extra 100 pounds on my frame before I would, start to dissolve heart muscle. So again, that's not so much anecdotal. That's actually some preliminary studies that have come out, but and what we can include that in our next video. But I guess so. Your opinion is same as mine. Our ultra conservative, vitalistic hearts say, please, like we don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
and like let's be conservative walking into this stuff because we certainly walked into the buzzsaw enough times historically. Now, what's a good thing to say here, though, right? So we talked about this, and it was really cool that we're on the same page. If you are taking a GLP-1, what's our message for those people who are taking them right now?
Well, number one, it's your decision, right? And we're not going to shame anybody that has done it, is doing it, is considering it. It is
Yeah,
always your call at the end of the day. Our job is just to educate and hope to create a path that doesn't include that. However, it doesn't mean that we're not the right fit if that is in your history or you're considering it. We just have to know how to support you. And if we don't know,
right.
then that makes our job really, really hard and we aren't able to help you to the extent that we'd like to be able to.
Yeah, we just said like like if you test, to test this to know. And why wouldn't we run testing on people who are on GLP-1s for them? Because if they're not doing it, we'll do it, right? So if you are going to do a GLP-1, run the stress effects panel pre and post. That'll cost you an extra few $100 between the two. And then, and now really know where you're at health wise. Know how to, it would help us help them be able to cater programming to support depending on which one they're on, to support the negative effects that have been reported thus far of that particular GLP-1, right? And or if you've been on it, we could test and then help you recover the cardiac tissue, recover the. And the other part I think that is always skipped over as well and never mentioned is you still are going to need to do the program. You know what I mean? You're still going to have to do something that teaches you how to eat, that keeps you accountable, that changes the behavioral patterns that got you there to begin with. And you need to do it in a way that is quote unquote sustainable, like we're talking about. And so, and so it's not an either or thing, it's a both and. If you're doing GLP-1s, we love you the same. No less love for you than with or without them. In fact, we love you enough to continue to report to you the truth about what's going on, and at the same time, both and make sure that you're getting the healthiest results out of it that you possibly can and not setting yourself up for some future health issues.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I don't have anything else I can even add to that because yeah, we're
Yeah.
we're here for you, period, no matter what. And
Yeah.
we just need to know how to support you.
So, and then on our next episode, we're going to talk about GLP-1s a little bit more. We'll talk about more stuff, but on that one, we'll tackle a little bit more of what the physiological process in the body is at the fundamental level, right? What's going on there? And then what's the preliminary data saying right now, the preliminary reports on, this the very limited actual studies that are being done on this stuff, right? But we'll talk about it. And we're not going to ignore the fact that people are dropping 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds rapidly. And we're not going to go back and be contradictory to what we taught on this video, right? And throw out the benefits and only talk about the drawbacks, right? But we need to look at the total picture. And then when you look at all the pluses and minuses, it becomes real easy for people to make that decision, I think. But that'll be more for our next video. So thank you for tuning in to True Health Functional Foundations podcast, and we will see you on the next episode.